All right. So let's see. Let me start by sharing my screen, and then we'll kick it off with outstanding RFCs. Or excuse me, I skipped the first item, which is a rare one. Do we have any new faces today? Anyone want to introduce themselves? New member of our working group today?
I guess it'll be me. Yeah, so my name is Donovan Inga. I'm from ING, and I'm on the data science in the box team, as we call it, where we are providing data scientists with environments to do data science.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Hopefully you find Buildpacks interesting, find ways to do that, to use them in your data science platform, I guess. Cool.
I can go as well.
We've got a couple of the new faces. Yeah.
So I'm Gareth. I work for a company called Engineer Better, and we're helping out one of our customers migrate about 80,000 applications to cloud native Buildpacks. So. Yep.
Wow, it's a lot of applications. Be very interested to hear like some of the types of applications you're looking to migrate. Just
we've got a very good breakdown of everything. So yeah, we can. I'm sure we can share some of that with you.
Yeah, that would be really great. Josh, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Joshua Casey. I recently started at VMware on the Paketo team. So I work alongside Ryan and Frankie and some of the others on here. This is my first time attending the working group meeting, so I'm excited to be here. Gareth, I don't think we've met, but I have met Daniel Jones through some previous Cloud Foundry experience. So it's good to hear that Engineer Better is continuing on with the cloud native way of doing things.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. The next item of business is to review outstanding RFCs. We've got a few of them. I can start in from the bottom. This stack bomb RFC is still blocked, as my understanding. I don't know if anyone who maybe attended the CNB working group meeting in the last couple of weeks maybe has any sort of status update on the run image SBOM. My understanding is that that has gone from a this maybe will pass to like this in all likelihood won't pass situation, but I could be reading that wrong.
I would say the update is that after a working group, we decided to, the group of people involved in that conversation suggested that we move from a model where we bake the bomb into the image to one where the platform is in charge of just providing it to the exporter. And the rationale behind that would be that, especially because we know that baking the SBOM into the image is not where we'd like to end up in the very long run. We'd like to be using like cosine attestations or cosine SBOM or some other storage. It's sort of like a intermediate hack until we could be at that situation. And instead of doubling down on that and specifying it, we could instead let platforms do what they want. And provide it in different ways. And I think there was pretty broad consensus on that, other than I think Stephen still have some questions.
Cool. Well, we'll keep watching it, looking for updates to try to understand when we can maybe move forward on this. Next up is the source removal build pack. Forrest, do you maybe know what the status of this is? I think it was like.
I'm still waiting to receive feedback from Emily. That's my only status.
Sorry, I feel like we were going to talk about whether to change the default, right, to include and exclude. Is that the outstanding?
Yeah, whether or not the default behavior should be exactly that. Yes.
Yeah, I think last time we said we were going to talk about this offline and then we didn't, right?
Yeah.
I think we should I feel like the suggestion with the existing default behavior is that the way you opt into and out of it is by including it, like appending it to the order. And while that works pretty well in some situations, like when using the Pack platform, it's a little bit harder in other platforms. And my suspicion is that it'd be the most convenient for people if it was just always included in the order and you opted in and out by setting the environment variable. And I feel like I've been moving in that direction based on feedback and changes we've been making on the Java side as well, where we had a bunch of workflows where it's like, oh, you know, like prepend a different JVM build pack as a way to change your JVM, like a lot of prepending and appending workflows. And I think the feedback has been that that is not as useful as just sticking all the components in together and using environment variables to opt in and out.
Okay. So then it would sound like basically I can keep my current environment variable set, and then if neither of them are set, then do nothing.
Yeah, which I think would allow us to keep almost everything the same, but include it by default.
Okay. I think I'm fine with that. I have to think it over a little bit. I'll respond on this issue to this open comment that you have here. Or I'll at you or something to that effect if I come up with a reason why I wouldn't want to do exactly that.
I'll track what I just said out loud in that issue for posterity.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next up here, we have add an RFC for secure runtime environments. My understanding is that this one was very close to being merged, but I could be wrong about that. Emily, you just commented on this.
Yeah, Sam made some updates because we had been asking about including workflows, sort of like how we go on a path from here to doing this. And now that those workflows are in, I think there's like just a couple nitpicky questions we need to talk about in terms of, you know, when do we cut over? For how long do we maintain two different stacks, that kind of stuff. I was going to propose that, you know, we like actually change the users in when we make brand net new stacks. So like if we introduce a focal stack, which we will have to do eventually, and then phase out this behavior with the phase out of our existing stacks when they hit end of support, rather than doing a major version of our Bionic based stacks.
I think that makes sense. I think the next one we are planning to support is like JJ, which is like JME. It's a 2022 one, the one that's coming out in April. Whereas I don't think we were ever planning on supporting Focal, but it does make sense.
Either way,
that is a great time for us to make a breaking change like this.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't actually looked at this since the changes were made, so I need to do that. That's on my list. Anything else to say here? Okay. Oh, and then here we go. Another thing that's on my list. I have a half-written RFC for this. The gist here is that Dan has asked for these 4 items to be outlined as like configuration options in this RFC. I can kind of give people the background of like what I'm going for, but this morning was a train wreck of meetings, and so I haven't actually got to like fully fleshing it out in text form. But the gist, generally speaking, is for the specification of where the static files live, whether or not to use push state, and whether or not to enforce HTTPS. We're going to go with just basic environment variables that'll let you set those things. And then lastly, for basic auth, we're going to use a service binding that effectively says like, here are my basic auth credentials in order to do that. Both Nginx and Apache HTTPD are configurable with this like .ht password file. And so we'll just create a service binding that lets people pass that in to enable basic authentication in front of their static files. Other than that, the last part was something that I think Frankie wanted or suggested as a need, was that we want, if you have to push the eject button to get out of this zero config model, it's useful to know like what your current Nginx conf or HTTP conf file looks like. And so just providing documentation, outlining that we should provide documentation for how to get that, the file contents from like a built image. So that's where I'm at. I hope that's like the right direction. If folks have some objections to that idea, then I don't know, hopefully later today I will have found the time to actually get it into the RFC in text form. All right, moving on from there, we've got propose an image retention policy. Dan, you're here. What is going on with this one?
I think we were just kind of letting this one capture some feedback. We're not really in any particular hurry to push it through or anything. So we just want to make sure people have plenty of time to comment and, you know, let us know thoughts about what they, I guess, expect out of the project, you know, in terms of how long we should hold on to things and what it seems reasonably safe to get rid of. I think a couple times the comment of like, can we capture metrics about the images, you know, to try to use that in a calculation of you know, when we should delete something has come up, but it's not feasible with GCR. Excuse me. It just doesn't capture anything unless you turn on some extra logging and then parse through those logs, which we're not doing at the moment. I mean, we could potentially expand into doing that, but we don't have anything historical, you know, to examine there. Docker Hub seems to have a bit more there, so we could potentially look at something, but I haven't checked out to see, like, you know, how feasible it would be to automate something like that.
I think that like part of the conversation around this is how long are we going to continue to have images be available on the GCR registries that we currently have. I know that we have for quite a long time, I can't remember the exact dates, but we've been simultaneously shipping to Docker Hub and GCR. The GCR images, I believe, are for the most part mirrors of where like the Docker Hubs are considered to be the canonical locations. They're the ones that are at least referenced in the Buildpack registries themselves. So based on the definition of whatever the retention policy is here, we might end up in a situation where we end up just being able to drop GCR support entirely. If it falls already, like, I guess what I'm saying is part of the reason we have GCR support and continue to have it on an ongoing basis is that there are images that appear on GCR that do not appear on Docker Hub. These are very, very old images of Buildpacks. If that diff is outside of whatever we decide as the image retention policy, then we are in a situation where we can just drop support for GCR entirely at that point based on the policy. In which case, Dan, I don't think you have to think about what this would mean for GCR.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is kind of one of the benefits of getting a policy here. We're not on the Java side, we're not as far along on migrating off of GCR as the rest of the team. So we've still got some time to go, but I think this would kind of help us shape that plan. And also, like, we might go back and do a copy of older images and move those to Docker so that they're, and how far back do we go? A policy like this would help us, determine that as well. I think another interesting point of feedback here would be, if people would let us know how you might expect to be notified, about things like this. We could certainly like have a Slack channel that just gets a message whenever we delete an image, or have some sort of digest or something that shows what's been cleaned up. And I do think we had talked about working with the Buildpacks project on the registry to see if there's a way that we can like move a build pack to like an archive status, or possibly mark it as pulled or something like that, so that we can, so that there is some indication to the tool to what happened with that. I haven't had a chance to bring that discussion to the Buildpacks team yet, though. I can make a note to do that.
Okay. Any more thoughts on this? Cool. Let's see. Add an Apache Tommy community build pack. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. Tommy. Gareth, this one looks like it's yours.
Yeah. This one's me. So Tommy, for those that don't know, Tommy is it's like Tomcat with a few extra jars. It has support for different profiles and some things. So we've got quite a few of our users that are using Tommy for its sort of micro profile support, and some of it's EJB based stuff, really. So I think this was approved. I was just wondering what the next steps are. We have a like a proof of concept repo where with it in. There's I think linked from that doc. It's just what happens next, really.
I think this one is my fault for blocking. We need one more Java maintainer to approve this. And I have glanced over it and I'm comfortable with it. I just need to read the details. But I'm sorry, I had not gotten to that since last week. I'm happy to approve it, but then I feel like once we merge this, then we can do the transfer of the repo if you want to build it from that. I feel like Dan is probably the best person to shepherd this because he's done the last couple donations into the Java project. But I think we should also talk about, what sort of relationship you want to have to this build pack going forward after we bring it into the project. So want to make sure that you're, if you want to be contributing to it in a long-term way, would add you as a formal contributor to the Java team.
I think we probably will. Yeah. I can see that being maybe some additional features or things that we think we would want to contribute to. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, not that you have to be a formal contributor in order to contribute. We don't accept the contributions however they come, but it's just about making sure that your relationship to the build pack is one that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right.
Once Emily gets her vote in on this, we can maybe just talk on Slack and coordinate a plan to go forward.
Great.
Cool. Okay. And then we have another Apache Tomcat related RFC.
Yeah, this one's also me. So the sort of the idea is that we wanted to create a way. So Tomcat lets you do things like put a context XML inside your meta inf folder that is packaged with your application, and you can add in data sources or configurations or tweaking of certain things with that. It also lets you populate some of the parameters in that context XML, or even in your web XML or server XML from system properties. But at the moment, there's no easy way of setting those system properties. So we want to provide an easy method to do that from either from environment variables. So what environment variables at launch time, or from bindings. So this is a sort of proposition. We had some really good comments about probably not using Java tools options, which seems to be the current way of doing it, because it's logged by most of the JVMs. So if you had anything sensitive in there, then you would you don't really want that to appear in the logs.
I'm just now seeing that you responded to my comments. I'll take a look at those and get you some more feedback.
Yeah, I pushed up a little commit to it as well to extend the proposal.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Sounds like the end for that one. Moves Python promotion RFC to implemented section. This one doesn't sound like that's already been merged. Great. And then lastly, this also doesn't sound like an RFC.
Yeah, it just needs
Some cleanup. Okay.
Yep.
I can get to that after this meeting. Emily, if you're not going to just do it right now. That gets us to the end of the outstanding RFCs for this week. Next up on the list, we have libcnb v2 updates and questions. Do we have any libcnb v2 updates or questions? I know that the steering committee talked a little bit about this yesterday, which is, I'm not entirely sure we know what the current kind of like roadmap or status of what a libcnb v2 might look like. Sam, I know that you've been kind of spearheading this a little bit. Do you have an idea of what that might look like, or yeah?
I think it's the current set of pull requests. I think I've put it in a state that I think is mostly compatible with Packet. The only remaining pull request that I've seen is the one about the different detect failure modes or statuses. I think apart from that, like, it's just waiting on all of us implementation maintainers to figure out if we want to, if it looks okay and we're okay to cut out release. But yeah, I think in terms of just the basic functionality of what libcnb offers, I think it's complete. The interfaces, if there are any changes that need to be made. Sorry, it's late in the day. I'm just completely lost. The proposed changes that we had staged for V2 were all done. I don't know if there's anything else that would be needed from Paketo side to make it usable. We've been asking for feedback from Paketo, Google, and a bunch of other folks, but I don't think we've had any major changes coming in the last few weeks. So it's just waiting on us to figure out what to do with this. But all the initial grievances that people have with libcnb v1, I think, have been addressed.
I think there were some things with SBOM that came up. I feel like there have been at least a couple fixes that we merged into V1 that I don't think got merged into V2. I'm not sure how much of that applies, because we did remove some of the old SBOM stuff from
Yeah.
V2. But I've been meaning to look back at that and see if there's anything we missed.
Yep.
And I believe Ryan had some comments on the SBOM stuff as well, in terms of differences between packet and what's in there.
We currently
Couple
have
things.
a little bit more of an integrated implementation for the like new SBOM formats in Packet. And so then the question becomes, what is the diff of functionality that we would want to maybe like replicate in a optional library or something that comes from Packet that we can build on top of whatever the kind of base implementation in libcnb is. So I haven't had a time to look specifically at that to see what that might look like, but that to me stands out as like the biggest diff at the moment.
Cool.
Other than that, I know Forrest actually spent some time trying to move one of the Packet build packs over to libcnb. I think that's where some of his like recent PRs had come from, was based on like having done that work and felt pain or felt like there were differences that maybe could be improved.
Yeah.
I don't know, Forrest, if you had thoughts.
I mean, beyond what I did for those PRs, I haven't had much additional thought. The transition was relatively straightforward. I believe I have branches of both of that changes pushed up. So I think that I have a go dist and a packet branch, both saying using libcnb pushed up. I'll double check that that's true, but I very notably didn't try and do anything with SBOMs at the time because I thought it was going to be too much trouble even for me trying to I just wanted to see what the quote unquote base library would do for me. And I did it a couple months ago. So SBOM was a little bit less pressing of a matter. So it might still be something worth looking into. But overall, I don't have much more feedback to give on it.
There's one of the PRs that's still open from you. Is that blocking? Because I know we've had pushback on that PR from the maintainers on the CNB side, but I think everything else made sense.
This is the like the
yeah.
detect result one.
Yep.
I don't know. I made an argument there. It seemed to fall in its space, and I'm okay with that. Like, it's not something I'm gonna like push hard on getting a change for.
I also am not, it is not a hill that I'm ready to die on. So I'm more than willing to go in and close it here in a minute.
So if it's just the SBOM stuff, if you have any open issues around like what's missing or what more you want, we can probably implement it. I think like I saw the packet version of the SBOM implementation. It looked reasonable as well. I think we do way less on the libcnb side, but like what packet did seemed non-opinionated and when it came to SBOM. So also happy to switch to that implementation if that makes things consolidated. Yeah, just if you can just open an issue with the list of requirements rather than the actual implementation, we can figure out a good middle ground.
That sounds good. I can take an action item to take a look at the diff of those things and at least open up an issue outlining what I think would need to get addressed. Okay, anything else on libcnb v2?
I think there's also a draft RFC open for the testing bits that complement libcnb. We discussed this in length in the last Buildpack authors tooling meeting, and I was actually supposed to follow up with a bunch of tooling maintainers on the Paketo side to understand what they think about the RFC and like the blockers to donating something like Occam to the CNB project. But if whoever's interested, if you can just put something in the chat or whatever, or I can schedule some time with all of those folks. This is specifically just for Occam donation to CNB. What would be the blockers if that's feasible? And we also talked about some parts of Occam that can potentially be replaced by something like test containers. And yeah, and that's pretty much it.
I think generally speaking, I know we talked about this in the last working group meeting here. I think generally speaking, but the actual mechanical concern, I don't think folks were had issues with. I think folks just wanted to talk about like, what does this mean for kind of like our relationship as tooling maintainers to the project itself, and like how could that concern maybe be remediated? I don't know if that's outlined in the issue. I should take a look at that before commenting further, I think.
I think at some point Steven wrote some guidelines for accepting components. I don't know if that includes like how we handle project maintainership, and if we can have maintainers from the donated project be part of the team that maintains the incoming project on the CNB side. We can probably figure something out. Think like just in terms of getting things out and released. I know that LibPack currently depends on libcnb and been relatively quick in terms of releases and getting reasonable pull requests merged in quickly and out early. So if that stands as like some past experience of how the relationship between two projects might look like, that's a good example. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I know that I would be interested in having that conversation. So if you wanted to reach out to me, I can loop in the rest of the tooling maintainers as well. All right, last item on our agenda was a project update. I think there was only one item on the list that I saw, which was that the Git Buildpack is moving from the Paketo community into the Paketo Buildpacks proper. Is there anything anyone wanted to say on that, or any other project updates that folks wanted to give? Does not sound like it. Okay, then yeah, we're to the end of the agenda. Anything last minute that anyone wanted to bring up before we adjourn?
I just wanted to point out that we presented Paketo Python Buildpacks to the Kubeflow community today as potential for like, so just for some background context, Kubeflow is a project that provides Kate's native operators for various data science workflows. They provide the Kate's native operators, but they don't have a good image container building solution. And the data science community like generally has to deal with a lot of complex dependencies, but the people who are actually like data scientists or ML engineers don't want to deal with any of these complications around building container images or handling dependencies. So in that sense, like Buildpacks are a great fit that complement what the Kubeflow project offers. So we presented our Python Buildpacks as like a brief a brief introduction to a Python Buildpacks in the community meeting today, with hopes that we can get more response from their side on what they need and see if we can start building out a set of data science specific Buildpacks in Paketo. We already have almost all of the Buildpacks that work with the Kubeflow operators internally at Bloomberg. So if folks are interested, I can talk about what the Kubeflow project does, what their image building needs are, and what kind of Buildpacks Bloomberg currently has that sort of complement these offerings that Kubeflow has, and see if we can get some of these supported in Paketo upstream. So if people are interested, I can give a brief overview of Kubeflow in the next meeting and talk a bit about the kind of Buildpacks that would be needed to support those offerings.
I think that would be really great. I know we also have I mentioned this to the Python maintainer team also this morning after our meeting with the Kubeflow folks. And they also expressed some interest. So there definitely would be some folks interested in hearing what you're doing at Bloomberg and how we could be supporting it more directly upstream in Paketo.
Yeah, I would also like to comment on this. So I'm from ING, and for us as data science, yeah, we are still on the pre-Buildpack situation, where we first had like 50 different images, and we were, after a lot of engineering efforts 2 years ago, we built an entire version engine to drop down to like 30 images. And all of these images are really, really big. And in total, with all our users, which we have like over 700 users now, data scientists. It's like we're running terabytes of like Docker images and stuff. And we're really hoping that we can also use Buildpacks to cut this down, especially because we have all kinds of different Python versions, TensorFlow versions. Think about CUDA drivers. Think about Spark, which is also like a gigabyte with all the Java dependencies. So there's a lot to win, and also pipeline building wise, people waiting every day. Maybe this illustrated a little bit. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks for sharing. I feel like it seems like a pretty natural fit for Buildpacks, really, given that the current options are like appear to be wait for components to install at runtime, which undercuts the sort of auto scaling story, right? Or do it all on your own, which undercuts the system handles all the boring parts. You just write your logic story. So.
Awesome. Yeah, Sam, at a future working group meeting, that would be a great topic. I think a lot of folks, you'd have a very interested audience. Okay, anything else? All right then, everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.